Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the Underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The Underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the Underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion each and every week. And tonight on the show, we'll be discussing the future of the Jedi Order. Oh man, it sounds like we're about to delve into some Legends books from the 1990s. And we'll be catching up on some of the latest and greatest Star Wars news. And of course, we'll be answering your hashtag Ask the SWU questions from Discord and Super Chats later in the show as well. So stick around for that. All that, much more on the show. Joining me tonight, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? Good to be back. And I'm pleased to announce I've made this proclamation myself that from now on, I think based on the reception of last week's episode, that from now on, the Star Wars Underworld should be a musical podcast. So welcome to the Star Wars Underworld podcast. Yeah, take it, Hannah.
Day, and we're here all together every day. Yeah. Not every day. We keep playing it's every day. It's never every day. It's every week. Damn
it's a lie. It's
not
a lie.
Not as many things rhyme with week. But
yes!
There are things that rhyme with leek. Leek is a perfectly good
leek?
food. Yes.
Food. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of.
I mean, there's my username, Seek3PO.
Oh,
worked in somehow into it.
I'll workshop that with
you have to turn it. You just have to start calling me Seek or whatever for it to work in the song. Week. Yes. So right. There's things. The other voice you hear in face, you see, because Dominic is not here. It's my favorite co-host.
Yes. Yeah.
Raeside.
G'day there.
Shafted again.
Yeah, every week. Just wait and see. Fantastic to be here again. Seeing as last week we kind of opened the discussion and the intros with talking about the actual intro of the show, I want to bring up something else that I super love about this OG, like really just quality intro we got going, is forget like the cool voice bites of everyone and all the characters. Forget all the cool images of Star Wars things. The best thing about the montage of photos, and this is talking specifically about the video version, is just watching the progressions of Chris's head and what hair is growing where, and it's just so great. This short to like hip length hair with beards, no beards, all the mixes of it. It's so great. It's so good. It's like a little just flip book of all the different styles. I love it. So good.
Yeah, it's great because I'm a human chia pet. So hair just like comes out of me. You can see it growing. Like you can watch it grow.
Yeah.
And so it's just every day I wake up and I decide, do I want long hair today, short hair?
Exactly. Right.
I just can decide whatever I want because it just grows back whatever I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on. Right on. It's so good.
Wild.
It's
really
the best
really
part.
Wild. Yeah. No, that's funny. I knew you were gonna say that because that's the funnest part for me too. So
yeah.
That's
so good.
Hilarious. Now I have to say something about you. So, in lieu of there not
is that how this goes?
In lieu of there not being something funny from the intro yet, yesterday I was at a fast food place and I was getting my
story.
Yeah, I was getting my noodles because I like going to get my noodles, and I was just waiting for them to prepare my noodles. And they needed to make a fresh batch for me because I need a lot of noodles, more than they usually have on hand. And
naturally.
So I'm just doing what everybody does, scrolling through their phone or whatever, waiting for the food to be ready. And one of your YouTube things comes up, and it's
Oh, yeah.
Speeders and Attack of the Clones be like.
Oh,
Video.
yes.
And
Yes,
so
yes, yeah.
you're doing your fabulous Star Wars impressions that you do so many of, and you're impersonating like Zam Wessel and Anakin's speeder bike, the one that Anakin stole or whatever the heck. And so you're making those sounds like ooh, wee, and all this stuff. And then they call my name and they tell me, oh, your food's ready. And so I'm like, okay, I need to pause this, but I'm like, I think I'm using like the new feature where it can like minimize a short into like a tiny little window and you can scroll YouTube still. And I'm like, how do you pause it when you're in like that? But pressing it doesn't really do anything, and you can only expand it or hit a little tiny X to like get rid of it. And so I'm like trying to pause it, and I can't pause it, and you're just making these noises. And so I decided, okay, I just got to put this in my pocket because I got to pick up my food. So I put my phone in my pocket, and I'm just walking up to get my food. My pocket's just like ooh, your voice coming out of my pocket.
Oh boy!
And I'm just
oh
like, okay,
man!
I wonder if anyone notices this and are wondering why these sounds are coming out of my pocket. Like, this is bizarre. But I gotta get my noodles before you give it to somebody else or whatever.
It couldn't be one of the podcast clips or any of your explainer videos or anything like that. You like it has to be you, the one where you're making weird noises and impersonating Star Wars characters. That has to be the one you're playing loud in public.
Yeah, thank you for that. I feel like that is the best promotion of my content ever. I applaud it, really. That's awesome.
So check out the Raeside. Especially check it out when you're in line to get food, and there's a possibility you might have to quickly transition into talking to somebody. Because that could spill over into that, and there'd be some marketing. So guerrilla marketing.
So
very
good.
Nice.
Gotta love it. Thank you for that.
Yes, of course. All right. So let's do some quick promo for us. It'll be a lot less smooth, but we're still gonna do it. Punch that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. Please subscribe if you're listening to us on a podcast app, and also like or follow if you're watching us on Twitch or Facebook or somewhere else on the internet. A bootleg. Maybe people are making VHS tapes still of podcasts. I don't know, but if people
are bootlegging the Star Wars Underworld
on a
podcast.
floppy disk.
What?
What just exclusive now to floppy disk?
I mean, I literally like was reminded of a conversation I had with someone like 15 years ago where they were talking about the only way they could watch the Clone Wars was having it sent to them in the mail. So it did.
Old school
that
Netflix.
did happen. Yep, old school. You could Netflix entire seasons of the Clone Wars back in the day. I wonder if you still can. For people who don't have internet connections, maybe out there in Alaska or something. wherever Australia's Alaska is.
Probably Western Australia. Western Australia. There's nothing there except
Western Australia.
Is it cold?
Heat and emus are out there. That's all that's in Western Australia.
If you were watching our podcast on like VHS or Laserdisc or floppy disk out in Western Australia because you don't have an internet connection, it has to be mailed to you. Or a kangaroo has to bring it to you, or however that works.
His pouch. That's what the pouch is for.
Yeah, that's exactly to carry the podcast. Oh, it all makes sense now.
That's people. That's a fun fact. That maybe some even Australians don't know that all Australians get their mail delivered to them via kangaroo pouch. That's a thing.
Now,
I heard it on the
actually,
internet, so I know it's true.
Multiple competing ones, right? Because it's the entire marsupial family of different animals that have pouches,
and the koalas collect the mail. That's also true.
They get it from you and bring it back. So so this is what you need to do. In order to actually subscribe to us, you need to find your local koala mail service, and you have to give them like a letter that says you want to subscribe to us, and maybe send us like $10 or whatever the subscribe amount is, and we'll take Australian dollars. It's fine. We'll take dollar reduced from Australia.
$10 with ads. Yep.
Yes, we will. And the koalas will deliver it, and then that'll get to us. And yes, please subscribe.
Basically, Australia is just like a weird Hogwarts situation where their animals are the mail.
That's our delivery system. That's so good.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the inspiration for Mad Max came from somewhere. So that is now it makes sense.
Naturally.
Yes, this is great. So you can also check out our Discord. I think we're currently kind of deciding on what the next thing is we're going to do for a watch party, but I've heard some ideas and they're interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just Joel's the Baron administrator. Okay, he makes the decisions on that. He just tells me what he wants and I play it. We'll see. We'll see. I have heard some ideas also, and I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So there might be a certain other space franchise potentially that there might be another one that we do maybe a back-to-back on. Maybe there's 2 parts of something, and maybe we watch one part 1 week, and then a few weeks later we watch the other part. Maybe
the possibilities.
That's
are
the possibility.
Endless.
See if you can guess.
Also, we've completely given up seemingly on our full chronological watch through of Star Wars. Because we freaking never got out of Young Jedi Adventures in a year, guys.
You need to
it's
have
so
a Young
good.
Jedi.
Yeah,
We're gonna bring it back. I promise.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Okay. I haven't given up.
Do that. Yeah. You can also follow us on social media. I would really say Blue Sky is the only real social media left. Everything else is just, I don't know.
On fire.
Yeah, I don't recommend. But you can find the Star Wars Underworld on Blue Sky. Search for the Star Wars Underworld. You'll find us over there. I know their URLs work kind of differently than typical sites, but you'll find us. We have a thriving community over there. We'd love for you to be a part of it. And then finally, make sure you check out the other shows that we have. You already know what you're going to get at the Raeside. You're going to get those wee sounds, so definitely. But also check out Ion Cannon for lots of great deep dives into Star Wars canon, legends, and current. And then check out Tales from Beyond the Galaxy and Tractor Beam as well. That's on our network. All right, so let's get right into the news. Ben, what do we have going on this week? Something about books from the 1990s, legends. What is this?
Probably.
Jedi Order?
I mean, I'll be honest. The title of this video was something that I made up. Okay, I made it up. It's based on something we'll talk about later that I have some thoughts on. As far as news goes, there has been not much happening. But there has been a few things, okay? And we basically skipped all of it from last week. So we have like 2 weeks of news, which still isn't very much. But we're going to talk about it, okay? Because that's what we do here. We don't have new Star Wars to talk about. Thanks, Lucasfilm. We have to wait another 60 days until Andor. Jeez. That's going to be a long wait. But Daisy Ridley has been making the circuit. Her new movie, Cleaner, which is a movie I actually really want to watch, is out tonight as I'm recording this. So she's been on the press circuit for that and obviously been talking. I mean, every time she sits down, they're like asking her, any actor that's been in Star Wars ever gets asked about Star Wars, but she is like has upcoming Star Wars projects, so everyone wants to grill her about that. So she has been talking quite a bit. We won't go through all the quotes because they're out there. You can read them if you want to, but there was a couple of them that I think were very interesting. First comes from Inverse, who spoke to her. It was just kind of a follow-up to an interview that they did with George Nolfi. George Nolfi I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago, where he kind of went in on it and was very insightful and talking about, hey, Star Wars is political, guys. It's very deep and there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's all that stuff. And she very much agreed with him. She says, quote, I feel like the Star Wars films are all political. I feel like it's the individual versus the big corporation or the big group. So I think they always have been. And ultimately, I think the films are emotional, and that is good and evil, which we all can relate to very specifically in our day-to-day lives. But yes, I do feel those conversations are woven in within the story. And I'm obviously very excited to see what writer George Nolfi does. So get your comments ready. Star Wars is woke and Daisy Ridley thinks it's woke. No. Okay. It's Daisy Ridley just stating the obvious, guys, unfortunately, if you didn't already know. But, yeah, what do we think about this? I'm glad to hear Daisy Ridley see this, but does anyone else have any thoughts on what she said?
Well, just to get to understand the context right, are you interpreting that they're more talking about out of universe politics or like in-universe politics? Because both of those are things I'm interested in. Like, I'm interested in like, you know, actually the machinations of the political system of the New Republic, and then I'm also interested in, you know, how Star Wars is like a commentary on our current like reality. How do you interpret this discussion?
Obviously, this quote is out of context, and we are getting the written form of it, so it's hard to like infer a lot. But I take it as both. I take it as
that's great.
Star Wars is ultimately political, and something I want to get into later in the show. We get to a certain question from someone that sent in, is like, you know, we're getting into this new era of Star Wars after the Rise of Skywalker. They are writing it now. George Nolfi is writing this new chapter. And I don't think they can do a movie without at least touching on the political makeup of what the heck happened. Is there a new Republic? Is there a new, like, we know when there's a new Jedi Order, like what's going on there? So I think getting into the politics of Star Wars is something that I've always been very fascinated by. Yes, even some of the worst Clone Wars episodes that were all about politics, in retrospect, actually kind of interesting, because there was a lot, they were trying to say a lot of things back in the day. George specifically had a lot to say about the politics of Star Wars. And then also, along with that, just politics in general and commentary on the world around us. George was big into that. There was a lot of allegories. It wasn't always things. I'm not saying that as like a 7-year-old, I was watching Return of the Jedi going like, oh, this is an allegory on the Vietnam War, and the Ewoks are clearly the Viet Cong. I'm like, no, I didn't get that off the thing, but the subtext was always there. And I think this is part of Star Wars' DNA from the beginning. And it seems like both Daisy Ridley and George Nolfi really get that. And I'm very curious to see what are they putting in this movie? What's actually going to be happening here?
Yeah, that is very interesting. So, to be honest, what I really want to do right now, and this is probably a bad idea, but I want to do it, is like, I just want to talk to somebody that has a problem with Star Wars right now. And it's like, why would you invite that? It's like, that is unsolicited things that just come at any Star Wars fan anyway from just breathing, is you just get unsolicited opinions that you didn't ask for about why people have issues with Star Wars and the politics of Star Wars. But for some reason right now, I've been so zen lately with like the people around me, and I haven't had many arguments or debates. It's at the point I've lost touch. I don't know why people are mad or confused or anything, because it's like in my brain, like it's just, I've gone over this so many times. It's in the fabric of my DNA that Star Wars is a commentary on George Bush and Richard Nixon, that I just don't understand what people are thinking or what planet they're on, if it's something else, if they have another view of it. I don't know. So maybe if y'all have heard what people are assuming about it, maybe you can inform me, or maybe we all don't know the answer to this. I don't know. But at this point, I'm just like, to me, it's just I've researched it and talked about it so many times now. It's not a like, oh, did you know that like the Emperor is Richard Nixon? Did you know that, you know, the Clone Wars was a commentary on like 2000s America and the way the Senate works there? Like, you know, at this point, it's not a did you know, because it's been 20 years since that last thing happened, and like almost 50 years since the first thing happened, that it's just like history to me. Like, I don't understand. Is there another view, and what is it? What's in their head when they think Star Wars isn't about that?
Yeah, I totally get what you mean, because I think even as so directly from George talking about the influence of creating the Empire back in the 70s is he's so obvious. He's so like concise about, hey, these are, you know, there's various political influences I had on creating these two sides. And so I kind of get what you mean, where it's like, I don't understand what people say there shouldn't be politics in Star Wars. Star Wars is politics. It's a war. It's two factions. It's many factions and two major sides. It's just a complete mirroring of the political kind of health in the past like 120 years of, you know, mostly America, but also many other countries. So I totally share that same, like, what do you think is happening? Do you what? And keep politics out of it. It's like, you wouldn't have anything if you keep politics out of it. You wouldn't have a story. You wouldn't have a story of hope. You wouldn't have something to go against. You wouldn't have something to conquer or defeat if there was no politics. And so, it's very interesting. And in terms of Daisy Ridley's kind of comments here, I took them in the context of just this context of what George set up Star Wars to be. It is a political drama, essentially, of actual events, and she agrees with that, which I kind of love, and which is like, I love everything she says, but I'm just like, yes, you get it. She's right. She's right. But yeah, it's interesting. How can people not get that?
Yeah, it's because like I am in no way like a film student or someone who studies film, but in a way I am. Like, I watch movies, I do all this kind of stuff. I love movies, I love filmmaking, and I think probably most people within the sound of my voice probably can say the same thing. I'm just like, you love these things and you get into the weeds of like what makes this thing tick. And it's not just Star Wars. Like, I think it's safe to say most media, most art has messaging to it. It has political themes. It has, social justice themes, all this kind of stuff. And it's woven through that, I think, and so much so that, like, I'm on the opposite thing. I think I love a good dumb action movie. I love just dumb fun movies, but my favorite films and TV shows are the ones that have a message to them, that are deeper than that I can look at them and go, this filmmaker is trying to tell me something in a profound way. And maybe it connects to something political, maybe it connects to something emotional, whatever that is, there's something more to it. And it is insane. To me, it's insane. Like, I don't want to, like, because, like, I'm like you, Chris, like, I want to have that discussion. I was like, okay, where are you coming from with this? Because to me, it's crazy to think that media has to be neutral, that it has to be this thing in the middle and it can't stray, because I think there is this kind of conservative, obviously right-wing kind of belief that there is left-wing politics being encroaching into media and that shouldn't happen. My view is there's right-wing politics and left-wing politics in tons and tons and tons of movies. I think there's right-wing stuff in Star Wars. I think there's stuff in there that I think, obviously, because Star Wars, appeals to kind of everyone. I think people that aren't a liberal like George Lucas still were able to connect with Star Wars in an emotional way and found themes and stuff that they connected to. That's always been there. I don't think it's ever been this super partisan thing. It's not like George Lucas came up and said, either you agree with me politically or you're dumb. And like, that was the thing they put before the movie even, played. Like, it's never been like that. So it is fascinating. It's fascinating to see this, but it's nice to hear Daisy Ridley and the people behind the scenes kind of embracing this idea, because I think there has been other creators, and especially people on this side of the spectrum, that are not on board, and powerful people that have, shared that sentiment. And like I said, kind of insane to me.
What is so fascinating, and again, which is like, we should do a study of this, because if you actually align what George says about politics, about the world, and his kind of social analysis of the state of things, particularly America, it is fairly left. Wait, is that the right side? Yeah, it is fairly left. I always get so confused between which one's which. Terrible mistake to make. what he stands for fundamentally is really quite left, and but it's just his presentation of it is so interesting, and I think that's what makes Star Wars very palatable, and it just kind of, it's almost like putting, when you have to give like your dog dog medicine, and you got to like wrap it in a piece of ham or like a piece of cheese or like in a spoonful of peanut butter and be like, here you go. It's kind of like he does, like he made Star Wars to be like that, being like, hey, focus on if there's this all wonderful power supposedly helping the galaxy, think about it harder. Look at the situation harder, because showing that fault of the Jedi and Palpatine all throughout Star Wars was kind of his messaging. There was that message saying, hey, like I keep seeing this scene from Clone Wars shared a bunch as well, of that episode with Ahsoka on Mandalore, and Ahsoka's talking to the cadets on Mandalore, and one of them says, talks about corruption. What is corruption? Like, how do you know? And you're meant to trust your leaders. And Ahsoka saying that line of, I can't quote it exactly, but those in power, like, always question, like, always hold them up to a standard. Just because they're in power doesn't mean you can just trust them. That is literally the complete summation of how George sees his politics, and I think that's a really healthy way to see politics, regardless of sides. It's a really healthy way to kind of challenge socially and politically what's happening in the real world. But George has been doing that from the start, so it is funny. Again, just people being like, this isn't a thing. It's like, George dog medicine you. He put the pill in the peanut butter, so you taste it, you thought it was great, you're like, it's just a war movie. It's like, no, there's something to learn about it in it.
And we're talking about this. I can't remember how I'd stumbled upon this. I think it was on Google, because Google serves up some crap journalism sometimes, and I found the report on this quote, but it was on a podunk site that probably gets 2 views because I was one of them, and they were going all out. They were all in the Daisy Ridley says Star Wars is political, and this is why Daisy really doesn't understand Star Wars. Blah blah blah. This is the one things, and I wish I could pull it up, and I might need to.
Well, I want to know what their argument is, because I don't understand it. Like, what is going on? Like, what are they saying? Why do they think it's not political? I don't get it. Because
she says in the article, like, it's something about organization versus individual versus big corporation. That's the rebellion versus the empire. That's the resistance versus the First Order. That's a theme. That's one of the biggest and most overt themes in Star Wars since the beginning. And to like say that she doesn't understand, that's Star Wars in a nutshell. Like, there's nothing in there that you can disagree with. But Daisy really doesn't understand Star Wars, guys. Just so you know.
That's wild.
But yeah, I'm glad Daisy Ridley does understand Star Wars.
Yes. So
it's good to hear from her say that. And she, as I said a couple of other things, and I'll run through this other quote really quick because
I was about to say, because there's something else she says that I actually want to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of took a sledgehammer to the show notes today, because there's a lot of Daisy Ridley quotes. There's a lot of Daisy Ridley quotes out there, and she was getting kind of redundant. Not that she was being redundant; it's just that the questions she was being asked were kind of similar, and she was giving similar answers, because as you do, the whole step and repeat thing for things. So, but she was speaking with Maggie Lovett from Collider, and talking about the idea of her taking on more of a producer role on New Jedi Order, this new film. And she says, quote, "I don't know that I'd be a producer on it, but I certainly have been very involved. I'm involved in, not very involved, but I'm involved in as much as I know what's going on. I know the story, I know what's going on with the script, so I'm aware of all that. I think that's been really wonderful over the last few years, is being more involved with from start to finish, really coming to set, knowing this is the absolute best way we can tell the story. These are the best actors for the job. This is the best crew for the job. Having the confidence is so lovely." End quote. So I like that she is like saying she's not a producer, but she definitely has a hand on the wheel more so than she previously did. Like, that's even a starring actor doesn't come to set and be like, I know the crew, I had a hand in this. Like, it seems that I'm sure a big paycheck, well-deserved, was part of her coming back. But I think also they probably promised her a little bit of control over this. I think you see a lot of actors do this. A lot of actors start their own production companies because they want to be producers. Not all of them can be Tom freaking Cruise, but they do want a little more control and not just say the words on the page. They want to have a little bit more control over what the words are on the page. So I'm glad they're giving her. She's not probably going to get an executive producer credit or even a producer credit, but she's definitely got more say in this movie, and that's very exciting to me.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Because there is unfortunately a history of the actors having a different vision for their characters than the writers did, especially with the sequels. And the actors tended to probably have the better ideas from what we can tell.
Dude, can I just say, I literally discovered this like a few months ago. On a random night, had nothing to do. I didn't rewatch. I watched for the first time the BTS of Last Jedi.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
The director and the Jedi.
I learned so much. I was like, oh, Mark had a lot to say about this.
Yes, he did. Oh my gosh.
I literally, I knew, but I didn't really know what he was saying. Yeah. So I literally just came across this. Yes, very, very good point.
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely the Mark Hamill, Rian Johnson battle that happened in Last Jedi. And I think obviously there's a lot of angry people still on the internet that want to make more out of that I think even Mark was saying. Because Mark in that specific documentary is saying, okay, I was really caught off guard and I really did not like what was on the page when I first read it. And he says in the Director of the Jedi, look, I gave my full blessing to Rian Johnson. I'm going to do 100% what you tell me to do. And he did it. And I think his whole thing was just I ended up liking it. I liked what happened. And maybe he was lying. Maybe he was trying to save face in the end, saying that. I don't think so. Obviously, he said a lot of things and was kind of made his discomfort around Jake Skywalker be a thing. But ultimately, I think some people have unfortunately taken it kind of out of context and done a lot of weird things with it online. The other one that comes to mind for me, and maybe you were referencing this one, Chris, is the whole Rise of Skywalker, Oscar Isaac, Poe Dameron of it all.
That's one of them.
The fact that I think Oscar Isaac straight up said I was playing Poe Dameron as if he was gay. And that just, and then in Rise of Skywalker, they're like, oh, let's have him hit on a woman just to make sure that we know he's straight and definitely not gay.
Man, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And well, then the other thing, John Boyega is the other one I was thinking a lot of as well. I think John Boyega was playing Finn he's gonna come into this big Jedi moment, and that was totally brushed off. And then I don't know what happened to Kelly Marie Tran, but the writing did not match up probably with what she was picturing for her character either.
Don't get me started. We've been over this 1,000 times. Yeah. You're gonna stir all those feelings up in me, and I'm gonna get on a rant, and it's not gonna be pretty.
So the point is, it's probably a good thing that Daisy Ridley has some input on the story, considering all of this. That's the point.
And I think, and obviously there is the question of, are they going to get Poe Dameron back? Are they going to get Oscar and John and Kelly and all these guys? Are they going to coax them back to things? And I think they're going to it's not just money. I think money is always going to play a factor. Oscar Isaac said, he's not going to come back to Star Wars unless he needs another house. So, that may be a factor, but I think also a say in the script, a good script, give them a good script, and make them feel like they have some hand on the wheel, I think you will get all of them back. And I hope they do, because I think everyone wants to see those characters again.
The one quote I also want to bring up that I forget if you mentioned that was mentioned in this kind of interview is where she also talks about the timing, about how, like, I think there was a question about, like, they've gone through a few writers, but Daisy kind of just sums it up saying she thinks it's good that they're taking their time to really nail the story and they don't want to rush these things, and like they're really just taking their time. I thought that was a really interesting comment, because either side of the opinion of the sequels, I think a general consensus and kind of just not consensus, but just a general look back to the past, like, movies of Star Wars in the 2010s has been the kind of set dates of we need a movie every year did put pressure on the stories. And I think the fact that she's saying that is really telling of, you know, I don't think that would just be her personal opinion. I think that's sort of whether that was talked about, whether that she was told to say, hey, mention that in interviews, whether that's just a general understanding now at Lucasfilm. Very interesting that she said such a comment, because I think that's a really good thing, 100%. And that's why when people go, oh, there's pushback, like, you know, they've pushed back the date, or they've chosen another writer, or got, you know, in and out. I continually say that's a good thing. That's a part of the story, like, refining itself. That means they're not settling. They're not just going, we need to get a movie out now, which is a completely different approach to Star Wars movies now. So I love that she mentioned that they're taking their time with it. And I think that's a big positive for Star Wars fans.
Yes, yeah, that's really fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears to another actress, to someone who has not been in Star Wars before, but has been in literally other space franchise. She's out here collecting sci-fi franchises like Infinity Stones. Sigourney Weaver, I think, I can't help but believe that after this interview, she got a call from Lucasfilm. She got a tongue lashing, because I think she said too much. I think she said far too much. She didn't say that much, but by Lucasfilm standards, the ones that like want to keep every single thing about their character secret.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is a lot. This is a lot for Lucasfilm standards. So she was interviewed by Games Radar, and she spoke about working with Grogu. She confirmed straight up that she has scenes with that little green baby, and she says, quote, I get to have scenes with little Grogu, which is probably why I did the movie. And he's a little badass too. It's going to be wonderful for people to see what Grogu is up to now, because he's growing up a little bit and is capable of much more. Maybe we just think just watching the series. So already I can feel Favreau and Filoni. They're sweating. They're like, what's she gonna say? And then she goes on to say, I play a wonderful character who is, in a position of authority. I have to send the Mandalorian out on a mission on the Outer Rim where all the bad stuff happens. End quote. So she plays a person in authority that gives Din Djarin missions, and also she has some scenes with Grogu. So some big tidbits, like not huge, but I mean we kind of know. And also, the name of her character is also like out there on the internet if you want to go find it. I can't remember it. I'm not going to give that spoiler, but it's out there. So what do we think? Are we excited for Sigourney Weaver in Star Wars, Mandalorian and Grogu?
100%. I am betting on, this is kind of related, but I'm betting on she's got to have to be a surprise guest at Japan. We'll talk about the guests announced because I think those were the last ones, but I surely there's going to be a Mando movie panel or something, at least in the Mando showcase, Metaverse showcase or Lucasfilm showcase. And I would love to see her come out. I don't know how they could get Pedro out there, and I think he's going to be too expensive. But I think everyone knows Sigourney's in it. That's not a secret anymore. She's out here yapping a lot about it. Great for us. Probably they're freaking out on the back end. I totally agree with you. But I think that'll be like I reckon that she's gonna be like, oh, you know, do you guys want to like see stuff from the trailer or whatever? And then they show us the trailer, and then out comes Sigourney Weaver. So, yeah, I think, yeah, in regards to like what she's talking about here, it's like, yeah, she's clearly new to the Lucasfilm family, and maybe she missed the email saying, do not mention anything about who you work with or what you see. Yeah, but I'm so excited to see her. I think she's fantastic. Is she gay? I keep thinking she's gay.
There's those vibes. I don't know.
I feel like we've had this discussion before. Have we not?
I think we maybe have. I keep getting her not confused, but like I think I get her and Jodie Foster. They're like the same person.
Oh yeah, I can see why. They're both science fiction 80s powerhouses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so breaking news. She has been married to someone named Jim Simpson since 1984. Sorry to burst
She
your
can
bubble.
still be gay.
Yeah, she has gay vibes. You could be a beard. Oh my god, man beard.
She's considered a lesbian icon because of many lesbian characters that she's played on screen.
She played a lot of
You don't have to be gay to be a lesbian icon. I know that for a fact.
That's true. Like I feel like Pedro Pascal is a lesbian icon.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
Right?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Sure.
Oh, so good. So good.
Daddy.
So good.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, I love Alien, and I forget how many of the Alien films she's in. I think she's in more than one. But I do love that original film. I thought that Ridley Scott movie was very, very well done, especially of its kind of the time that it was in. It was a pretty like, you know, I feel like no movie really did what that movie did before that movie did it. So I thought that was great. And then also, just a shout out to the Alien franchise. I finally watched Alien Romulus like a few weeks ago. That movie's awesome. Like, huge recommend to anybody who likes, if you like sci-fi with decent amount of horror, but not wild amount of horror, Alien Romulus is a great movie. So yeah, that's cool. That's exciting.
Yeah, no, I've never seen Alien, for the record.
What?
None of the Alien movies.
Star Wars Underworld movie night. Let's go. We now know.
I know. I really like when it was a thing, the Alien part of the Great Movie Ride at Disney World. That was really cool. That's the only Alien I've things. But I think I've literally seen Sigourney Weaver in everything else. Seen her in Ghostbusters. I've seen her in what else? Avatar. Seen her in hell, I think I'm one of the only people that likes the Defenders series from Netflix way back in the day. She was the villain in that. I like that show. So yeah, she's been around the block. So good to see she's finally like. I don't think have we even talked about this before? I feel like this news about her joining the cast, the Mandalorian Grogu, maybe broke while we were talking about Skeleton Crew. So
yeah, we didn't talk. I don't remember talking about it.
Yeah, breaking news. Several months late, Sigourney Weaver in the Mandalorian and Grogu. In case we had mentioned, in case you only have like limited connection, you're on a deserted island, you only have access to our show. You literally just found out about Sigourney Weaver in the Mandalorian and Grogu.
That's for our VHS audience in Australia.
Right.
I was about to say, this ties into the whole like system of like delayed kangaroo mail.
They're just finding out over there about Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, it's because the koalas keep sleeping from all the eucalyptus. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
Okay, so another female horror icon, one much younger and up and coming.
Wait, Jenna Ortega. Dang it.
I wish. Dang it. It's coming though. It's got Jenna Ortega in Star Wars. It's got to happen, right? One day she's getting all the franchises. Come on, do it.
Yeah, it'll happen. Infinity Stone.
But no. This is actually Sophie Thatcher. She's been in quite a few things. Most recently, Companion. Which is I've not seen it, but heard it's good. She obviously played the character Drash in the Book of Boba Fett. Anybody remember Drash, one of the mods from Book of Boba Fett?
Right. Yes.
Iconic. What an era that was.
Great
oh, good
amazing.
Stuff.
Underutilized. Where's the Mod Squad show? Bring it back.
Where's the water drama show I want? What is the water prices like now? 3 years after inflation would have hit them hard. Man.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The economy in Mos Espa really
Crazy.
sucks now.
She was in Yellow Jackets. Yellow Jackets is a good show. I've only seen one episode.
I think I had never heard of her prior to Book of Boba Fett, but I'm that way with most actors. I don't get familiar with them until they get into Star Wars. So that's not it's not a knock against her, but she's hitting the big time now with a lot of big projects, and she said she is very interested in returning to Star Wars. She says, quote, "I would love to do that. The Star Wars universe is so vast and so dense and so interesting, and Jon Favreau made it feel very political and very timely." Speaking of politics coming back, it's such a cool universe. I would do it in a heartbeat. So come on, Favreau. Come on. Where's the Drash spinoff? Come on.
You really need to do that. Please.
Legitimately, though, sick character, sick design. And like, I know people love to trash the mods, but like, I like them. I think that one dude with the spinny move, I think he was badass. Bring him back.
Yeah. Yeah, they got a bad rap because the whole thing wasn't about them, which it should have been. And if it was, it would have been better press.
Oh, you're suggesting that Boba Fett should be pushed out of even more episodes of his show just to just
give every character that's great their own show and make it about them. It's that easy. You have Book of Boba Fett season 2 that's all about the Book of Boba Fett. Why? Because the Mandalorian and Grogu are busy doing a movie. Duh. And then the Mod Squad can have their own spin-off series, and then we're good. Everybody has their own thing. You got the movie with Grogu and Mando, you got Boba Fett thing, and then you got the Mod Squad thing, and it's 3 separate things, and everything is amazing. Easy.
Yeah. Just simple as that. Lucasfilm, you got it. You just figured it out. No problem. Yeah. Speaking of actor who is returning to Star Wars this year in Andor season 2, Stellan Skarsgård was named number 85 on Variety's recent list of 100 greatest TV performances of the 21st century.
Wow.
Which, like, some people were like lamenting 85. I'm like, this is the 100 greatest performances of the 21st century. They're like the whole century they're putting in here. And Stellan Skarsgård at Luthen Rail came in, made it into this list. I think that's pretty darn cool. And yes, probably deserves to be higher up on that list, but man, I think very well deserved.
I agree. That is whoever put that in there. Great job making that list. I don't know if people voted or if it's just one person decided or editing team, but whoever made that list, that is accurate. I would have actually put him higher than that. I would say top 30 probably. But that's probably because I haven't seen 2/3 of the things that they were ranking. So maybe if I saw more stuff, I'd have more people to put on the list and he'd be lower. But he was amazing in that show. The show was good because you can't say like, oh, one person carried it. Like there were a lot of amazing performances in that show. So many of the casting choices were just like, absolute. What is the universal thing? Goals. Like they were scoring. They scored very well with that, and he was certainly one of them.
I'm looking up who he's beat now as well. It's kind of
who are the other 15 people? That's right.
That is a good question.
Is it anybody?
No one's really jumping out at me. Just a few kind of side characters from Ozark and Gilmore Girls, How I Met Your Mother. Not main characters, but just a few kind of background characters.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
But still like famous shows though. It's kind of impressive.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, really interesting. Very good.
Yeah, the top 5 is Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad, Lisa Kudrow in The Comeback, Don't even know
Guess
what that
I need
is.
to watch that because I like
Elizabeth
her
Moss
friends.
in Mad Men, number 3.
Heard of it.
Jeremy Strong in Succession. Okay, I get that. That's a famous show.
Heard of that.
Julie Louis-Dreyfus in Veep.
Wow.
Okay.
In
She's number
Veep.
1.
No, Veep.
Veep.
Did you say Jeep?
Veep.
No, I said Veep.
No, I think Chris said Jeep.
I didn't say Jeep. Wait, are we talking about Jeep or Veep? Because I said Veep.
We're talking about Veep, but you
got...
said, "Are we talking about Jeep?" And I was like, "No, Veep."
I did not say Jeep. But
Julia Louis-Dreyfus in Veep.
Get a Jeep in Veep.
Yeah. I've heard of that as well. And I like her.
So,
in See, these are all actors that I like from the '90s sitcoms, like Seinfeld, Friends. Like I don't know their new stuff. It's funny.
Yep.
It's really interesting.
Yep.
Also, all of these people were in Saturday Night Live because the last Saturday Night Live had like 1,000 people in it, including her.
True.
By the way, hi, Kieran. Good evening.
Whoa,
good to see you, buddy.
Hi.
It's a rare appearance. Kieran Duggan in the house.
Let's go.
Good to see you, buddy.
They need to just make another season of the Clone Wars so we can rope Kieran back into hosting something.
So
the Clone Wars strikes back.
Yes. That would be great.
Okay, so a couple more things. Before we get to the questions. One, for those of you going to Star Wars Celebration Japan, not me. Hayden Christensen and Vanessa Marshall, Anakin Skywalker, and OG Harrison Dula have been confirmed as celebrity guests for that. So it's going to be good. It'd be cool to get all the Ahsoka cast and all the Rebels cast together. If that hasn't happened yet, needs to happen. I know the two Ezras. I know Iman and I think those two have hung
Taylor
out
Gray.
before. Taylor Gray.
Yeah.
So I know they've been together, and I know a few others. So but yeah, nice to see them showing up, and who knows what Hayden could be talking about? I mean, who knows what Vanessa Marshall could be talking about? I don't know. More Hera animated stuff. I don't know.
Hope so.
Could be interesting. Very, very exciting. And okay, one last story. Humor me here. This is the return of the Indie Underground. Some Indiana Jones news.
What?
Indiana Jones news.
Well, that was the thing.
Kinda. But it also relates to Star Wars. Okay, so just work with me.
How?
For those who are not aware, there was a new Indiana Jones game. The Great Circle came out. Apparently, it's very, very good. Troy Baker, who voices and plays Indiana Jones in that game. And apparently, Harrison Ford really liked his performance. Like, it seems to be no BSing here. I don't think you could drag compliments out of Harrison Ford too long, but he's been on more than one occasion has been very complimentary to Troy Baker on his performance. And he specifically talked up the subject of AI and recreating actors with AI and stuff like that. And he said, quote, "You don't need artificial intelligence to steal my soul. You can already do it for nickels and dimes with good ideas and talent. He did it. He, as in Troy Baker, did a brilliant job, and it didn't take AI to do it." End quote. So, I mean, I think this relates to Star Wars in a way that, we've had. I mean, obviously, Harrison Ford was de-aged for the latest Indiana Jones movie, and then we've had Tarkin, and James Earl Jones's voice was recreated via AI with things, and obviously that needed to happen. And I think there's a place for AI in the discussion, but I think it also can be taken too far sometimes. So it's kind of interesting to get Harrison's thoughts on this. I think he's definitely old school in the mind there. So I don't know. Does anyone have any thoughts on this?
I mean, I think I know where everything's going, but we're just gonna have to wait and see because is it ever a good idea to predict a future that a lot of people probably wouldn't like? No, but like, I think I know where it's going, which is, we probably will still be alive at a point, but certainly our children will experience a world where there's going to be no way to know if it's an original performance or not. There's going to be no way to know. So all of this in the meantime it's really just comes down to, and it's great because of, we talked a lot about this or it was either right before, I guess right after the strike, since we didn't do shows during the strike, but around the time of the strike, that happened a few years ago. I think we talked a lot about how really it's more just like, how does compensation work? How does royalties work? How do people get paid for their work? Like, that's really the question. The question isn't like, how is AI going to factor into media? I think we know what's going to happen. It's just a matter of like, who's going to be making the profit off of that? Is it the corporations or is it the actors? That's the only question that I'm interested in personally.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The way I think AI is, and I was having this discussion with someone the other day I try to liken it to be how I think like people, maybe kids or something in like the 1800s. Actually, I don't even know when was electricity invented? 1800s?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yep.
Like
More in there.
trying to explain electricity to someone in the 1800s just before it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you think, what the hell is this voodoo magic? Like, this is insane. Like, what electricity? No. What about the oil lamps? What's going to happen to the production of oil lamps?
Exactly.
So I feel like we're in that situation, but like with AI right now.
Yeah.
I think there's elements to criticize. I mean, with the invention of electricity, you get light bulbs, but you also get electric chairs. So it's like you can have a spectrum of crazy things.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with AI. But I think as long, especially in the media world, it's exactly what you're saying, Chris, of like the royalties, the accreditation of like, how things get signed off, how things get used, I think needs such a scaffold around it to make sure it's ethical. Yeah. But yeah, I think Harrison's right in this way and his comments. So I agree. But yeah, it's an interesting time for sure.
Yeah, obviously lots been said about AI, lots been said on various other things. And I will not pretend to be an authority about any of this stuff or to have any strong opinions either way, because I don't understand half of it, to be honest. But I think ultimately when it comes to actors, I think there was some real shady things put forth, especially during the strike, of just like, oh, we're going to get rid of background extras and we're going to replace them all with CGI AI characters and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh yeah, how many millions of people are going to be put out of work because of that? Like, that's obviously wrong. But also AI is here to stay, and how can we use that to better things? And, I think a lot of people are going to be like, no AI at all. And like, that's fair. But I think letting everyone have a say in the conversation and not like telling an actor that this is going to be, but like what happened with James Earl Jones? Like when he was living, he signed off on having his voice be used, like that, to recreate Darth Vader's voice, because I don't think at that time he could physically do it anymore. And I think that worked out well. I think as long as everyone is on board and there's no one feels like they're being pushed out or anything like that, I think that's well worth it. But we shall see how it goes, because it keeps going.
This is something that I've been thinking about that's kind of new, and I haven't heard anyone talk about this from this angle, and I'd be curious to start discussing this now. So we've lived in a world up until pretty recently where there have been long-term trends in everything, like fashion, music, filmmaking, TV shows. And now that we have the internet, it seems that trends aren't really a thing anymore, because everybody can go find anything from any era quickly on the internet and then create a subculture around it. And so you have subcultures that seem more like the style of the aesthetics of the 70s or the 80s or the 50s or the 2010s. And they all kind of exist simultaneously now, almost like in a multiverse. And I wonder, because I would have said before, like maybe a few years ago, I would have said, well, it really doesn't matter, this discussion about, AI versus someone reprising a role, or not reprising, but someone redoing a role that somebody else has done before, like with Indiana Jones, and like with Han Solo was done as well with Alden Ehrenreich, because in 50 years, we're just going to have the whole thing remade anyway, because that's been the case with films so far. Like all the films that were made that were popular in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s have been remade a few times since they came out. And, now we're at the point where a lot of 80s movies are being remade and all that stuff. Even more recent stuff, 90s, 2000 movies are being remade. A Star is Born has been made 10 times, and with different names, and sometimes the same. And so, but now with the internet, now that we have access to all the originals, will the subcultures hold the originals so sacred that no longer will it be necessary to remake something, or will people want something to be remade? Because you don't need it to be updated, because you could almost like digitally with AI or some other technology enhance or upgrade the original version. So like, for example, like instead of in like the year 2045, them saying, all right, it's time to make another Indiana Jones and let's cast a new actor as Indiana Jones, and just to make the whole movies all over again, like they've done with, they're talking about doing it with Twilight, but they've clearly done that with Marvel and DC and so many other things. Instead of that, will it be a situation where they just take the original Indiana Jones and just upgrade it to 4K, upgrade it to 8K, 16K, change it to 3D, change it to 4D,
Hologram.
5D, just like, they did with some of the Star Wars movies, and in this, they won't, and if that's the case, then we might get to a situation where they no longer actually do remake things, because they can just upgrade whatever and re-release in like a special edition of something that already existed, because there's already a subculture around it, because the trend never died. Like the reason why they could remake things in our lifetimes was because the trend died, because no one was watching the original thing. They forgot about it. No one had seen it. Now there will be a core audience that has seen everything, because everything's at everybody's fingertips and permeated and woven through all of media. Like you can sit on TikTok, scroll through thousands of videos, and you've seen a tiny scene from every movie and TV show in some shape or form if you've sat there long enough. And it's going to be odd to then see that with a different actor or different, style now. So I just wonder, in a world where there's really no such thing as a long-term trend anymore, and in a world that we're no longer going to forget about things that happen culturally, in a world where we still think we're living in the 2000s because the media we got in the 2000s never went away. It stayed on the internet and stayed in our face, and is still in our face. And people like Lady Gaga still feels like a modern artist, even though Lady Gaga at this point is this generation's like Madonna, this generation's Beatles at this point. Think about that. How is that going to affect everything? Like, is it going to change the way that they make things? Is it going to change these questions we're asking about recasting an AI? Very curious about your thoughts on it, because this is something I've just started to think about now, like past few weeks, past few months, with the way things have been going.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm as they say, chronically online, do a lot of doom scrolling, and you can't doom scroll for very long without like seeing someone posting a video of, I made this thing out of AI. I made Star Wars, but it's made in the 1950s or something like that.
Oh, those are my pet peeves. I have never disliked something so much.
See, it's so funny. It's so funny because it's always the first person that posted. They're like, "This is the greatest thing. I've discovered fire again. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life."
Electricity
and
analogy.
then it's everybody else in the comments tweeting or whatever them going, "Look at this idiot. Look at this idiot. Look how terrible this looks. Look at this. Look at how terrible this is." And like, it is this thing where it's just like, yes, the fact that you just put a prompt in a computer and this spit this thing out, and yes, it's got dead eyes and it's soulless and nobody moves and they're just kind of staring off in the distance is real weird. The fact that something like this, that you were able to put a prompt in the computer and make this happen is impressive. It's just not as impressive as you think it is. And the thing with AI, as with anything, but especially with AI, is it's the worst it's ever going to get is today. It's continually improving. It's continuing to get better. Tomorrow it's going to be better. The next day it's going to be better. And, they will continue to work out the bugs and will continue to make it better. I'm not saying that, like Hollywood seems to think, or at least some producers seem to think that, like, oh, we'll just be able to put in a prompt in here and just make a movie. I want to hire anybody. And like, that may happen at some point. I don't think it's going to be tomorrow, but it is definitely like we're kind of on the road to that. But the technology's got to evolve, and it's going to be interesting to see how that does. And I think, ultimately, just making sure nobody gets hurt along the way. I think that's my main concern.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
right. All right.
That's very true.
All right. So we have some questions. Guys. We have a few questions. I figure, and there's one actually that I've been saving. And it's kind of inspired the main topic of this episode. And it comes from our friend Tally. Tally says,
"Is my mic
hello there, Underworld."
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm just freaking out down here. Sorry. I didn't mean to be interrupting you. It is working there, right?
Yeah, I heard your tapping sound.
All right.
Yeah.
What?
Nailed it. You're good.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I assure you, we can hear you. Hannah, we can hear you.
Continue. Oh, man.
I know how that feels. Tally says, hello there, Underworld. What role do you think the new Jedi Order should have in the New Republic, if any? I feel they should be able to be peacekeepers and mediators both inside and outside the Republic, not agents of the government, but they should be held accountable to all the peoples of the galaxy. We've seen plenty of problems with the Order in the eras of the Acolyte and the prequel trilogy. I'd like to see how the new Jedi Order learning from the mistakes of the past, especially if some Jedi, living or ghosts, who have seen the downfall of the Order will be advisors to Rey. I still have yet to dive into the High Republic. I know I'm so late that I'm almost wrapping it up, but I know that their mission near the start of that involved outreach of the larger galaxy, which I think is a great goal. Even if the new Jedi Order is far smaller in numbers in the post-sequel era, do y'all think this should be going in that direction? Thanks, and may the Force be with you. Thank you, Tally, for that question. So the reason I wanted to bring this up, and please humor me for a minute, I have a lot of thoughts on this. And something I think about a lot because it has been a sticking point with this new era, especially with The Mandalorian. And we didn't get really much on the new Jedi, Luke's Jedi Order in the sequel trilogy. It was just like, it was there and then it was destroyed. We didn't get to like the makeup of like, what was this relationship to the New Republic, the Senate, all this kind of stuff. The mistakes of the previous orders and how Luke and now Rey is saddled with the responsibility of fixing those mistakes. And I think I've thought a lot about it because I think we see Luke kind of behaving badly in The Mandalorian. I think the choice that he gives Grogu is not the best choice. And I think there is evidence to suggest that the whole Jedi being celibate is still a thing, that Jedi can't fall in love, that they can't have partners. I think that was a huge mistake with the previous Jedi Order. And I think when Rey's Jedi Order comes down, I hope Jedi can, take partners and have more relationships like that. But furthermore, and like I said, I thought a lot about this. I think that if the Jedi come back, I think they should be vigilantes. I think they should not have any contact with the New Republic or any government that is may prop up in the waning years of the New Republic. I think they should be like the Rebel Alliance. I think they should show up when they're needed, striking from a hidden Rebel base, and disappear. And I think in the words of our real world, a separation of church and state, or separation of Jedi and government, in a way that I think the old Republic Jedi, I think, showed that was corruption. That was so much corruption. You see in the Acolyte, you see in the prequel trilogy, you see in the Clone Wars, the Jedi being beholden to the Senate and having the things. And it's funny. I'm sorry to bring another franchise into the fold here, but it's on my brain a lot. I just watched Captain America: Brave New World, and the previous Captain America movie is about this topic. Captain America: Civil War is Iron Man going, okay, well, we've made some mistakes. We need oversight from the American government, and we need to be kind of under their thumb, versus Captain America going, oh, well, we should be vigilante. We should not be beholden. We should be able to do what we want and how we want to do it. I think that movie and the Marvel Cinematic Universe agrees with Captain America. I think the Avengers should be people that are autonomous and should show up when they need to show up and not be beholden to any agenda from any government. I think the same can be said for Jedi. I hope, and I don't think they're going to do this. I don't know, they may not even get into it, but I like the idea of Rey being like, no, we're not serving the Republic. We are serving the people of the Republic. And that's our job. And I really do hope that they cover this and try to really, like I said, they're talking about this right now. George Nolfi's writing the script. Daisy Ridley, Kathleen Kennedy, all these guys are talking about it right now behind the scenes of Lucasfilm. How do you create a new Jedi Order, and how do you not repeat the mistakes of the past? I hope this is one that they do not do. But I've talked enough. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Yes, I just had to unmute it quickly. Yes, many thoughts. Very much going off what you're saying here. I think the summation of what I think the Jedi should be, and where I think the stories of, hang on. Not what I think the Jedi should be, but the stories they should be telling of the Jedi. I think similar, but one big thing is that through the prequels, well, actually, no, I'm going to start through the High Republic books and the High Republic media, showing the kind of previous, this angelic, positive and kind of idyllic idea of the Jedi, and how they can be quite good and how they can be apart from political motives. We, into the prequels, we see their downfall, and that's the big kind of story of, we shouldn't have gotten involved with the Senate, and Yoda was blind, and then you see their demise, you see the fall, you see the Empire, and you have the sequels, which is very solo, pun intended, solo focused into obviously Rey, Palpatine, and just kind of, individual focuses on. But I think the way that the storytelling for Jedi, and this is they could be doing with movies, shows, and animation, I think they could just do it all around, is to go back to that broad view of, how the prequel Jedi was going down, almost tell the same story of the Jedi, but going up. So how do they go back to a place of being a force of good in the galaxy? You're going to have the evil rise up of the different whoever's wants to rule whatever, whether it's Thrawn, whether it's a different alien group, whether it's from another galaxy. Like, always have, obviously you need the bad guys, quote unquote. But I think the Jedi need to build up again that question, and in each piece of media, ask that question of, well, what should the Jedi be? Because I think that's what the kind of premise of this Rey movie, this new Jedi Order movie needs to be. But I think every show and anything that's created in this guise could be, what should the Jedi be? Because that opens up to be, it's not just Rey creating a Jedi Order. It opens up to be anyone. We can meet a new Force user completely and just go, their study, their understanding into Jedi and how a Jedi should be. A Jedi should stick up for people and should do these things and da-da-da-da. So I definitely think there should be like an uptick in this kind of building up again, like, because I think we've done a lot of challenging. The Jedi shouldn't listen to senators. They shouldn't do this. They shouldn't do this. They should allow relationships. There's a lot of challenging, but now we need to kind of do the opposite with new media of being like, okay, well, what should they be? That's my kind of take on what kind of stories they should tell around Jedi.
Yeah. I just hope that the universe of the sequels still feels so small to me because of the lack of tie-in media to the sequels and this kind of desire to want to really lay out the films for many, many, many years in our universe first before peppering in all those stories in a way that they're doing that now with all the other eras in Star Wars. So for me, it's kind of less a thought about like, what should this be? What should the Jedi Order be? What rules should they follow? How should it be structured? How should it interact with other entities like the New Republic? And more of just, I just hope that whatever they go with it's fleshed out and it has some background and it is interwoven inside multiple stories, and we don't just have like a version of like a few throwaway exposition lines in the Rey movie about what the Jedi Order has become or what they want it to be, but then that whole concept is not mentioned anywhere else in the canon. Like, that would be, because I feel like that's kind of the way that they've been going. Like, how many books have we had about Hosnian Prime? I don't know, maybe a few. Not enough. It's just like all the things that they've randomly brought up in the sequels. It's like I don't know anything more about, really, and so I don't want that to happen to something as important as the Jedi Order. So I just, whatever they come up with, I hope they come up with something behind the scenes that both works for Daisy Ridley and Rey, works for the people who are writing and making and developing the Rey movie, whether it's Episode 10, Rey movie, whatever, New Jedi Order movie, but also works for the rest of the creators that are involved in Star Wars and will be involved in Star Wars, so that they can all contribute to the idea of what the New Jedi Order is and not be afraid of letting different mediums drive Star Wars canon forward again. Because, again, the whole word New Jedi Order comes from non-film canon. Like, it comes from a lot of great books and comic books about that stuff in like many long series, and including one I think that was literally called The New Jedi Order, that had many books in it. So it's like, let's let a bunch of people rebuild kind of what existed before. Star Wars is missing that really robust, multi-platform, multimedia, future-building canon that we used to have, because you used to be able to write about Skywalkers and children of Skywalkers and great-great-great-great-grandchildren of Skywalkers. And I think we need to start doing that again. I think it's the only thing that pushes Star Wars forward. We can't just keep revisiting the same characters and eras over and over and over again.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. It's going to be interesting because, because we don't even know at this point. We keep calling this the Rey Skywalker movie, but they haven't marketed it as that. And we don't know how big of a role she's going to be. I'm kind of expecting...
Supporting actor.
I'm kind of expecting Daisy Ridley to be a supporting role in this. More of a supporting role. Not a things, but maybe a more Dumbledore to someone else's Harry Potter. Maybe. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. One thing I want to touch on in this era of exploration we're talking about here, this is kind of diverging off the Jedi specific conversation of it. But I think something that aged this era that is, again, like, yeah, only vaguely kind of established through books, but not really much at all, even through Mandiverse. The New Republic isn't that established. There's just like Carson Dever showing up being like, New Republic, hey? And that's all we know from it so far. But the books are really, really interesting with the New Republic. One book that comes to mind that I think is really fascinating, showing the political state of the New Republic more than the shows are doing, is the book Bloodline, which oddly is more of a focus on Leia's character kind of development, being Vader's daughter. But it really goes deep into the two sections of essentially the Senate now, which is the populists, the centrists. And that, I think, is sort of a new, just like, not a replication of what the Senate was, not a replication of what it was in the prequels, but it's this new kind of example of how it's functioning, and it's dysfunction, essentially. And I think they can do a lot of exploration with that kind of functioning of, okay, this is how the galaxy's been run. Forget about the giant Sith Lord that we should all fear, but now it is like more of a, how do people like debate and planets and, you know, worlds get on with this kind of new system of the New Republic. I think that being more insular and not being connected to a Sith Lord being in control of it, and being more insular of like, this is the political Senate of Star Wars, actually allows for this New Republic era to be separate in a way. And for the Jedi to have stories that explore their own Jedi-ness, for lack of a better term. And then the political stuff is kind of separate. Like, you know, the Jedi don't need to freak out about the Senate anymore, because there's no Sith Lord in charge of it. So yeah, it's really cool. It's an interesting state.
Yeah, no, I like what you're saying there. And I think that's another thing that sometimes we don't think about, that people in charge at Lucasfilm definitely think about, in regards to how do you create a fertile era for storytelling? All tiers of movies, comics, TV shows, video games, everything. And we're seeing that with the High Republic. I think that's a great example of just like this thing. We're laying the groundwork with the books. We're doing some TV shows. We're doing some animated stuff. We're doing some comics, video games, whatever else. Obviously, and I think Star Wars right now, from a storytelling point of view, has a danger of, like what you're saying, Chris, of just like repeating ourselves, keep going back to the well, and like as much as, yes, I'm cool with seeing more Skywalkers and stuff like that, you know, if you create another situation where, oh, well, it's Rey Skywalker and she's got a Jedi temple and she's back on Coruscant and she's talking to the Chancellor, whoever that is, maybe it's Chancellor Rose Tico, that's what I'm gaming for. And, you know, at least we know she's not corrupt.
Chancellor Chuchi is what I want.
Oh, yeah.
But like, if it's like things, and there's political shenanigans over again, and the Jedi are in danger, like, that's the prequel trilogy again, guys. That's the same thing over again. Like, I think I'm hoping for something different, for something that is unique and can create this era and have a new dynamic on the Jedi, and have like it feel like the characters actually learn from their mistakes. A great example of this, again, bringing in another franchise, is Star Trek. Star Trek has done, especially in recent years, has done a great job of progressing the story to the point where it feels like there's different eras and there's different technologies and there's different things. And, you know, Star Trek Discovery, spoiler alert with that show jumps 900 years into the future, and it feels completely different. And that's the whole crux of that show, is characters trying to find their way in a galaxy that they don't know, because it's almost 1,000 years in the future, and, you know, everything's different. I feel like with Star Wars, you know, how much would change if you jumped 1,000 years into the future? You know, I think Star Wars is less about that. It's more stagnant in that way, except for the fact that, you have the Empire taking over for 20 years. You know, it's going to be interesting, because not only do we have this to worry about, we also have James Mangold and his, you know, first Jedi, whatever thing that's happening way in the past, apparently 25,000 years in the past. So seeing a progression of things, seeing how the Jedi started, that could inform the new Jedi Order too. So who knows? Anything else? Anything else?
Well, we got a super chat.
Going once, going twice.
No, I think I'm done. Yeah.
We got a super chat from Skyrim Clips.
Thanks so much, Skyrim Clips.
I believe that's euros. I think that's the euro.
Yes.
So
250 euros.
Yeah, 250
nice.
euros. Thank you, Skyrim Clips, saying Old Republic movies would be a great show.
Tell you what. Make us one of those with Bryce Dallas Howard as
yes.
One of those.
Okay. Here's the thing. I'm not saying that I dislike the decision. That's not the right way to say it. I'm not saying that I dislike the entire new sequel universe that they've created. Like, I think I do like it. Like, I like the character of Rey, Finn, Poe, what they did with Luke Skywalker, like Han Solo, Leia, all these things. I like it. I don't think that was a wild mistake. I think there were some execution issues, clearly. But like, I do think that was a fair decision to have a blank slate do that again. However, what I am missing is something that I think Star Wars used to do a little bit more of, especially with George Lucas, and something that other franchises, especially Marvel and DC, are just living off of right now, which is really aggressively mining the previous canon for ideas. Because Star Wars canon is so massive. Like, when you're looking at Legends, you're looking at all of the hundreds and hundreds of novels, thousands of comic book issues, video games. Find me a person who can name every Star Wars video game. I don't think it's possible. I know Ben Hart, trivia champion, probably can name a lot.
Episode 1 Racer, Nintendo 64. Step 1.
Step 1, yeah.
Fortnite, Star Wars. Oh, that's not one. Never mind.
Yeah. So the
Star Wars Connect, like Adventures or whatever.
Yes. There's so many, Star Wars Angry Birds, or is that a thing? So like, there's just so much. It's like, can we just kind of spend an era, maybe like 10 years, just going back and focusing on taking some of the best ideas and just, tweaking them a little bit so that they fit in a different medium, but making some TV shows and some movies based on that. And one of the things that is at the top of the list is the Old Republic. Like, I do like that they've created a new era called the High Republic, and there's some good stories in there from what I've heard. I've never directly read anything. I've seen a little bit of, young Jedi adventures and stuff, but it's cool, but it's like that's not even the same era as the Old Republic. The Old Republic is much older than that. So you could still, without even messing with the High Republic stuff, go back and retell some of those like stories around like those books and like the Darth Revan books, and stories around like the MMOs like KOTOR and Star Wars The Old Republic. Like I feel like one of the reasons why Marvel continues to be so successful is to still just go to all these old obscure like comic books and just make banger movies out of them, and make characters that only like a few like comic book nerds knew about in like the 1970s, like into these household names played by like making actors' careers. Like I feel like Lucasfilm needs to do a little bit of that. I feel like they could make someone's career by casting them as, hey, you're Darth Revan. Like, you're gonna be in a Darth Revan miniseries on Disney Plus, and then just pull this person out who's had a few credits, and then bang, they're like become this instant, that's who they're known of. That's for the rest of their life. Oh my gosh, it's Darth Revan. Like I feel like we're missing that a little bit. I wanna see that. I feel like they've just been so focused on let's bring in directors with new ideas, maybe let them play around with a few characters that they're nostalgic for in their childhood, but mainly it's new stuff. Here's a cameo here or there for the fans so they still feel like it's Star Wars. Like I don't get it. Like just do what Marvel does. Go take the best comic books, the best games, the best novels, and remake them with a awesome new cast and writing crew. Do it just a little bit, just like 20% of content. Do that for. I think it would be so much better for it.
Yeah, to your point, that popped in my brain. I apologize if I brought this up before, but on YouTube I found these, and I believe these were produced in accordance with the Old Republic MMO game, which is I think of as the new Old Republic game, but it's like 10 or 15 years old at this point. It's been around a long time.
Yeah.
But there are these, I guess they're basically journal entries. They are these in-universe journal entries from this Jedi Master named Nos Dural. And he just goes over, and got the voice actor, he's just like, he's fantastic. And he's just talking about this stuff. It's basically like a motion comic. And he's just talking through like all the history of the ancient republic and going through all the history, talking about the Mandalorian Wars and the Treaty of Coruscant and, all this stuff. And every one of this, like, that would be a great movie. That'd be a great movie. That'd be a great movie. Like that would make a great TV show. Like there's so many intriguing, interesting ideas. I know a lot of his stuff is, I think, probably created for the game, and there's obviously stuff that has been expanded on and is from like Knights of the Old Republic and the legacy, comics and stuff like that. But I mean, it's a vast era. Obviously, Knights of the Old Republic, everyone keeps clamoring for. Apparently, there's a rumor that there's going to be a TV show that keeps coming up, things, and obviously, like that's a loaded title. I feel like if you say you're making a Knights of the Old Republic TV show or movie, people are going to expect Darth Revan. People are going to expect this. You can't like make something original, and obviously the pitfalls of adapting books or comics or even video games is expectations. Is people are going to be comparison is the thief of joy, and they would be comparing all the stuff to the original stuff. Well, it's not like the comic. It's not like the video game. And it sucks because I think there's a ton of really great stuff that has been kind of put down because it's not like the original. It's not a direct copy of it because of course it isn't. As a comic being adapted into a movie, what did you expect? Yeah, I mean, I agree. I to Skyrim Clips's credit, like, I think the Old Republic is a very fertile era of storytelling that we could see a lot of different stuff. And so I'm game. Just curious when and where and how.
Who does not want to see Shea Vizsla? Raise your hand. Nobody.
Cool.
Like, come on. These are pretty freaking awesome characters from that era in different mediums. And it's like, come on. Yeah, and it's like, did anyone on the internet get on the internet today and start talking about how like they ruined Red Hulk and how like Red Hulk in the comics, that story? No one's doing that. No one's doing that. I think again, here's the thing. I think that Kathleen Kennedy's shy because Kathleen Kennedy, I think, was just starting her career at Lucasfilm when the Karen travesty happened. So, like, I think that, there's been these multiple moments where there's been an uproar when they've adapted something. And when they adapted Mandalorian canon into the TV universe, firstly, and now they've done it again, there was some issues. But you notice something. I think that we're in a different world now. And here's the thing. So back in the day when people were mad about how the Mandalorians from the Karen Traviss novels were being portrayed on the Clone Wars, Star Wars had an audience of a few million people, and only maybe thousands of people in that group actually cared enough about it to write things on the internet about it. It was not a lot of people who talked about Star Wars online in 2009, 2010. And so those few people, and it probably was less than 100 people, who were mad that they changed the way that Mandalore and the Mandalorian culture worked, and they made them like pacifists and like all this stuff. They were mad about that. They changed it from how it was in the Karen Traviss books to how it was in the Clone Wars. You know, those people would be you wouldn't notice them now, because did we hear any people complaining when The Mandalorian was the most popular show on the entire planet, and like everybody and their dog was watching that show, and it had tens of millions of viewers? Like, did you hear anybody complain about, oh my gosh, this new live action Disney Plus show is just absolutely tarnishing, our memories of the Karen Traviss books from the 2000s? You didn't hear any of that in 2019. 2020. And that's because of the scale and the ratio. There's a difference between the conversation that was happening between hundreds of people who were passionate, probably tens of people who were passionate about this one book series, and maybe thousands of people that were passionate about something on Cartoon Network. There's a difference between that and those same, now somehow magically 15 years older fans of books from the 2000s, and millions of people who are making TikToks and commenting on them. Like, there's a massive difference. So now I don't think you have to be worried about that anymore. I think, yes, it's still a lot of the same people at Lucasfilm now, Dave Filoni, Kathleen Kennedy, that were back then. And they probably, in the story group, there's probably people in the story group now that were in the story group back then. And they're like, oh no, we can't do this. We could not bring Darth Revan into canon, because people are just going to freak out if his lines aren't verbatim what they were in those books or that MMO. But it's like, it's not, I don't think it works that way anymore. I think the audience that you are pushing that out to is so big that the tens of people, the 37 people who are mad that they aren't line for line adapting the Darth Revan books, line for line casting the same voice actors from the Old Republic MMO to reprise their roles with AI bodies, but their voices are the same. Like, those people, like, they're not gonna get a foothold. It's gonna be like a needle in a haystack trying to even find a comment from one of them now, in the way that media is discussed with millions of people weighing it. It's not the niche community that it was then, when it was a controversy that they were adapting things from one medium into the other. So stop being scared. Make an Old Republic TV show or trilogy movie series. Just do it, please. Please. Thank you.
Do it. Well, all great points. And I have, let's finish the evening off with a completely different, but also kind of along the same lines question here. Relates to our earlier question. It comes from Gilster. Sorry, I mispronounce your name all the time. I apologize. Gilster 10. And for the record, Gilster, your other questions are in here too. Okay, we're not going to get to them tonight because we'll get you on the next go around when we got a full crew on deck. Okay, so we're gonna end with this one. Gilster asks, doing a Clone Wars rewatch, and I have a question about Mandalore. After Death Watch failed to take over the planet in season 2, why didn't the Separatists just straight invade Mandalore, since they were leading 2,000 neutral systems? I have to think battle droids would outnumber any Mandalorian resistance, and they would take over quicker than Darth Maul's coup. So I have two answers for this, but if anyone else wants to go, feel free to.
My assumption is that they didn't have the resources. They were just spread too thin, fighting on so many fronts that it's just another front and too much to do.
I think the first answer is George Lucas and Dave Filoni thought it would be cool to not just have another droids versus things. They wanted Mandos versus clones and stuff like that, or Mandos versus Mandos. So that's the first thing. The second thing is what you just mentioned, Glitzer, the League of 2000. I don't know. It's the 2000 planets that are in league with Mandalore. The Mandalore leads that are trying to stay neutral in the war. I think it's a NATO situation where, like a Switzerland situation, where you don't attack the neutral systems, otherwise all the other systems will come down on you and it'll start another war or something like that. So I think that's the general vibe that I get, because, like, if you remember watching the show, there is, like, season 5, Maul comes in and Satine's like, oh, hey, we need help now. Obi-Wan, please send somebody because Maul's on my doorstep, or she doesn't get that message out quite yet. And then Ki-Adi-Mundi, in his infinite wisdom, says, no, we're not doing that. We're not things. They're a neutral system. We can't help them. And then fast forward to season 7 when Bo-Katan and Ahsoka are like, okay, well, we know we're neutral, but we know where that Maul guy is that you have. He's on the planet. So in exchange, you help us invade this planet. And it seems that, like, Anakin and Obi-Wan don't even seem to have, like, the council's approval when they invade Mandalore. Like, when Ahsoka goes down there to do her thing, like, I don't think the Jedi Council knows that's happening, seems to. It's just happening. So I think it was an unauthorized siege, but it happened and it was cool. But I think the general consensus, that at least my understanding, is that neutral planets, you can't attack neutral planets. That's just not a thing in war, usually.
Yeah.
Am I right, guys? Did I nail it?
I think you're right, because I think as much as, like, the Separatists were very much just using kind of force takeover of things, they at least wanted the kind of guys that they were being diplomatic about it, and we'll send, like, Asajj Ventress. Well, think of Ambush. Ambush is like, we'll send Asajj Ventress to figure out with Toydaria, can you join us? Like, they have this facade of being very diplomatic and able to talk about it, but so I think that they're trying to keep that up. That's why they're not just like, they are taking planets over by force, but they're trying not to be obvious about it. I think that's how they're doing it. Yeah, and make everyone turn kind of internally on the planet. That's why they kind of had all those kind of separatist spies and kind of, people for the separatists on Mandalore, to kind of plant them and make the broader public kind of for separatist forces instead. Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope we answered your question, Glitzer. I hope we answered all your questions, guys, and we made it the best out of a really slow couple of news weeks for Star Wars. I think it was pretty good, but I think, without further ado, this will begin to wrap things up for tonight.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching, for listening to the show. Thank you for your super chats.
I don't believe you because there's no music.
It's playing. I can hear it.
Oh,
it's a bug.
Is it?
Hannah.
Yeah.
I need you to go outside. There's a kangaroo with a cassette tape in its pouch. Please take it out.
Is that what that's for? I
Yes,
wondered what that guy was waiting out there for.
Put it into your
He was kicking your door this entire time.
My
You hear that thumping?
bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
And then the music will start playing. The music will start playing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, yeah.
That's how
Sounds
it works.
good.
My goodness. So thank you, everybody. Follow us at the SWU, and we'll be back same time, same place, Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. on Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel, on our Facebook page, and on the Star Wars Underworld Twitch. It's always random when we have Twitch viewers, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Ben, thank you so
Hi,
much
Twitch.
for hosting. Hello, Twitch. Ben, thank you so much for hosting.
Oh, it was a pleasure as always. Yeah, just we're in, like I said, we're in a bit of a lull here. You know, we got what? Let me go to the thing. Let me go to the thing and see. We have 57 days to Star Wars Celebration Japan, 61 days to Andor Season 2, and 456 days until the release of The Mandalorian and Grogu, if they don't change it for some reason, which has occasionally happened. But, yay, Star Wars!
Amazing. You can follow Ben on social media at Ben Hart with no E. Hannah, thank you so much for hosting as well. Remember, you are my favorite co-host.
Yay! This week.
Don't rub it in.
Unreal. No, another great show, lads. Another fantastic week of political analysis on the state of Star Wars. Very, very interesting. But yes, countdown gets closer to Celebration. It's going to be crazy. Can't wait.
Amazing. And of course, you can follow Hannah on social media at the Raeside. For those listening, that's RAE side. Also, huge recommend the YouTube channel. Huge recommend. Remember, when you're waiting in line for food, please be watching all those shorts.
Just turn up the volume, full blast.
It's a great way to pass the time. Great way to pass the time. You can follow me online at Seek3PO. And make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube or whatever you're listening to us on. You can also become a channel member on YouTube as well, which is the only way really to subscribe to us and help us out. So definitely check that out. Join the Clone Trooper Garrison we got going on over there. And make sure you check out our Discord. We've got some upcoming... at this point, I feel like we need to have an Alien watch party at this point, so Ben can see Alien. So, yes.
Look, I'm a big scaredy cat when it comes to horror, so I think I might need somebody to come hold my hand through that.
That would be kind of fun.
And that's Ben's official dating pitch for any single ladies out there.
Yes,
looking for a man with glasses.
I didn't mean it that way, but
he loves his root beer.
Okay, there you go.
And he is in a barbecue store, so yeah, what a catch! He's a catch, guys.
Amazing.
I'm glad somebody's sticking up for me because
I got you, man.
Thanks, Hannah. Thanks a lot.
So good, no worries.
So the link to the Discord is in the description and in the show notes on your podcast app. So definitely go over there, join the Discord. And what do you do next? The show is ending. What do? You check out all the other shows on our network. They're all on demand. You can just watch them too right now. You can go watch Hannah's content over at the Raeside right now. You can watch the latest episode of Ion Cannon with Joel and Matthew. You can watch Tales from Beyond the Galaxy with Jordan and crew. You can watch Tractor Beam on this very channel. Check out all that stuff on the Star Wars Underworld Network until we're back with another show next week. But until then, have a fantastic week for Ben and Hannah. My name is Chris, and may the Force be with you. It's a wrap.